There is a place on Earth where the sun does not set for months and where the locals have to watch out for polar bears walking down Main Street. It sounds like a movie script, but for 56,000 people, this is Tuesday. We are tracking down lost tribes, investigating ghost towns from the Cold War, and sailing into a fjord system so massive it creates its own weather. But be warned, once you see what is hiding in the shadows of the midnight sun, you might never look at the North Pole the same way again. When you look at the data, the numbers stop making sense. We are starting our journey on the East Coast, a place so rugged and isolated that for centuries the rest of the world forgot people lived here. You see, most travelers stick to the West, where the capital is. But the East, that is where the planet shows its teeth. We are entering the Scoresbysund Fjord. To put it mildly, calling this a fjord is an insult. This is a watery labyrinth that stretches 350 kilometers into the heart of the island. It is the largest fjord system on Earth. Imagine the Grand Canyon, but fill it with freezing seawater and drop it into a freezer. The cliffs here rise thousands of feet straight out of the black water. The depth alone is terrifying, plunging down over 1,000 meters. That is more than 3,000 feet. But it is not just empty water. This place is alive. Captain William Scoresby mapped this area in 1822, but the Inuit knew these waters for generations. They knew that this specific geography creates a trap for icebergs. Massive chunks of ice break off from the inland glaciers and get stuck in the twisting channels of the fjord. They don't just float, they ground themselves on the seabed. Some of these bergs are so large they create their own microclimates. When the tide changes, these frozen mountains twist and turn. The locals call it the iceberg dance. It sounds poetic, but if you're in a small boat near one when it decides to flip, it is a death sentence. However, there is a softer side to this frozen brutality. These deep waters are a sanctuary. In the summer months, the fjord becomes a nursery. You might look out from the deck of a ship and see white shapes moving under the surface. Those aren't ice chunks. They are pods of beluga whales. They come here to feed and raise their calves, protected by the ice. It is a beluga ballet in the most hostile theater on Earth. The silence here is heavy. It presses against your ears. But if you listen closely, you can hear the pop and crack of ancient air bubbles escaping the ice as it melts, air that was trapped there 10,000 years ago. But just when you think you are completely alone, you see a speck of color on the horizon. Civilization is clinging to the rocks by a thread. Try to say that name 3 times fast. Itokortomit. It sits right at the mouth of the Kanga-Titivac Fjord on a peninsula called Liverpool Land. This isn't just a remote town, it is widely considered one of the most isolated settlements in the Western Hemisphere. Founded in 1925 by an explorer named Einar Mikkelsen, this town wasn't a natural growth, it was a strategic move. About 80 Inuit settlers were brought here from Tasiilaq, further south, to establish a claim on the land. Today, only about 345 people live here. The mean temperature? 5 degrees below 0 Celsius, and that is the average. In winter, it drops so low that boiling water thrown in the air turns to snow before it hits the ground. But here is what many overlooked about this place. In 2023, the town actually shifted its time zone. They moved 1 hour back to align closer with Europe and the rest of Greenland. Imagine that, an entire town deciding to change time itself just to feel a little less cut off from the world. Life here is different. You won't find a shopping mall, you will find polar bear skins drying on racks outside colorful wooden houses. The local hotel, which made headlines in 2018 for being the most remote guest house on the planet, is often fully booked by adventurers who want to feel what it is like to be on the moon. The soundscape of this town isn't traffic, it is the howling of sled dogs. There are almost as many dogs here as people. They aren't pets, they are engines. When the sea ice freezes over, the boats are useless. The dogs are the only way to travel the tundra to hunt muskox and halibut. But getting here is the real adventure. For months, the sea ice blocks all ships. The only lifeline is a helicopter ride, but hope is on the horizon. Funding for a new airport in 2025 was approved. But for now, if you come here, you are committing to the isolation. You might think a town this small has no culture, but you would be wrong. A hidden door opens to a lost history. We are moving south now to the settlement of Kulusuk. Most people only stop here at the airport on their way somewhere else. They miss the real treasure. It is a small, unassuming building, easily mistaken for a shed. This is the Kulusuk Museum. Unlike the big state-funded museums in the capital, this place is personal. It focuses entirely on the Tunumit people, the East Greenlanders. You have to understand, East Greenland developed in almost total isolation from the west coast. Their dialect, their customs, their art, it is all distinct. This museum is a family affair. It is filled with artifacts that belong to the ancestors of the people who run it. We are talking about items that were held in hands, warm with blood after a hunt 100 years ago. Inside, the air smells of old wood and dust. You will see intricate carvings made from bone and driftwood. In a place without trees, every piece of wood that washed ashore was more valuable than gold. The owner is often there, ready to tell you the story behind a specific harpoon head or a tupilak. A tupilak is a carved figure, traditionally made to carry a curse to an enemy. The ones in the museum are harmless now, but looking at their twisted, grimacing faces, you can feel the superstition that used to rule these winters. It is an intimate look at survival. It shows you that for centuries, life here was a daily gamble against the elements. But art in Greenland isn't just about the past. Modern hands are carving a new future. In the town of Tasiilaq, there is a building where the noise never stops. It is the buzz of saws and the scratching of files. This is Stuck. It sounds like a strange name, but it is the heartbeat of the local economy. Greenland has a controversy surrounding it regarding the export of animal products. You cannot take ivory or seal skin into countries like the US easily, but here, it is a way of life. At Stunk, you can walk right in and watch the masters at work. They are taking reindeer antlers, muskox horns, and sometimes soapstone, and transforming them into mind-blowing sculptures. The thing nobody tells you is how difficult this material is to work with. Reindeer antler is hard, unforgiving stuff. One slip of the tool and the piece is ruined, or your finger is sliced open. You can chat with the carvers. They aren't shy. They will tell you how they select the specific piece of bone, looking for the spirit hidden inside the shape. It is a tradition that goes back thousands of years, updated with electric tools. They also work with seal skin, sewing watertight mittens and boots that are warmer than any synthetic material NASA has ever invented. It is a place of creation. But not everything in East Greenland is being built up. Some things have been left to rot. War leaves ghosts in the strangest places. If you travel roughly 50 kilometers from Kulusuk, you stumble upon something that looks like the set of a post-apocalyptic movie. This is Bluey East 2. Back in World War II, the Americans needed stepping stones to get planes from the US to Europe to fight the Nazis. Greenland was the perfect unsinkable aircraft carrier.
They built bases all over the coast, codename Bluey. Bluey East 2 was established in 1942. It was a hive of activity with thousands of young American men shivering in the dark, servicing bomber planes. Then, in 1947, the US Air Force packed up and left. But they didn't take everything with them. Today, thousands of rusted fuel drums litter the landscape like metallic skeletons. It is a stark contrast, the bright red rust against the pure white snow and the grey granite mountains. Walking through here is eerie. You can find the skeletal remains of old trucks, the frames of hangars collapsing under 80 years of snow, and the silence is absolute. It is a controversial site. For decades, the locals complained about the mess. It is pollution, yes, but it is also history. It is a monument to a time when this frozen wasteland was the most important strategic point on the map. Sometimes, when the wind whistles through the empty oil drums, it sounds like the roar of a B-17 bomber engine trying to start up in the cold.
But nature is slowly reclaiming the iron. The ice is coming to take it all back. If you want to see where the ice goes to die, you go to Tinitekilaq. This tiny settlement sits right on the edge of the Sermelik Fjord. This body of water is fed by several massive glaciers, including the Helheim Glacier, which is one of the fastest-moving rivers of ice in the world. The result? The fjord is choked with ice. But choked is the wrong word. It is a procession. From the village, you can watch a never-ending parade of sculptures float by. Some are the size of cars, others are the size of cathedrals. For the locals, this isn't just scenery, it is their grocery store. This is a hunting community. You will see sled dogs chained up outside the houses, waiting for the winter ice to become solid enough to run on. When the fjord freezes, it becomes a highway. Hunters take their sleds out onto the sea ice to find seals at their breathing holes. The wild fact here is the noise. You expect ice to be quiet. It isn't. The Sermelik Fjord is a concert hall. The icebergs groan, crack, and thunder as they break apart. It is a constant reminder that the landscape is shifting. In the summer, the water is so full of ice that boats have to navigate a constantly changing maze. It is a dangerous game of patience. But we are leaving the East Coast now. We are heading south, where the history goes back much further than World War II. The Vikings were here first, and they left a warning. We have crossed to the southern tip of the island. Welcome to Nanortalik. The name means place of polar bears because in the spring the sea ice carries bears right past the town, but we are here for the buildings. Nanortalik has the most comprehensive open-air museum in Greenland. We are talking about a collection of preserved buildings from the 1800s and early 1900s. This was a colonial port. You can walk into the old blubber house where whale fat was processed into oil to light the street lamps of Europe. But the history goes deeper. This area is rich with Norse history. The Vikings settled in these green valleys 1,000 years ago. They built farms, churches, and trade routes. The museum holds the largest collection of local history in the country. It tells the story of the collision between the Inuit culture and the Norse settlers. There are stories of trade and stories of conflict. You can see the tools the Inuit used, ingenious devices made of stone and bone that allowed them to thrive. Where the Vikings eventually failed. It is a lesson in adaptation. The Inuit adapted to the changing climate. The Vikings tried to farm like Europeans, and when the climate cooled, they vanished. But to get to the next location, we have to pass through a place that defies physics. The walls are closing in. If you are on a ship in southern Greenland, this is the moment everyone rushes to the deck. Prince Christian Sound is a waterway that cuts through the southern tip of the mainland. It saves ships from having to go all the way around the dangerous Cape Farewell, but it is tight. In some places, the passage is only 500 meters wide. That sounds like a lot until you realize the cliffs on either side shoot up 1,000 meters straight into the clouds. It is a canyon of water, and it is active. Glaciers spill down from the ice sheet directly into the sound. You are sailing past walls of blue ice that are constantly crumbling. The sound of thunder echoes off the granite walls, but there are no clouds in the sky. That is the sound of carving glaciers. In 1959, the Americans built a weather station here, Bluey East 1. It is a vital signal post. There is a story about the ship Hans Hedtoft. In 1959, on its maiden voyage, it struck an iceberg south of here and went down with all hands. It was Prince Christian's sound that picked up the distress signal, but the storm was too fierce for anyone to help. Today, the water is calmer, but the danger is always there. The tidal currents keep the sound mostly ice-free, but mostly is a relative term in Greenland. You look up and see waterfalls cascading thousands of feet down the rock faces, fed by the melting ice cap above. It is beautiful, but it is also a reminder of the sheer volume of water locked up in this island.
But if you think these cliffs are high, wait until you see what is next. We are going to the place climbers call the Big Wall. You see, most people think of Greenland as flat white ice. But in the south, the Earth decided to punch the sky. We are entering Tassamute Fjord. This is not just a landscape, it is a challenge. The rock faces here rise up to 2,000 meters, that is over 6,500 feet, straight out of the water. To put it mildly, this is the holy grail for rock climbers. They call it the Arctic Patagonia. The granite here is cleaner, steeper, and more terrifying than almost anywhere else on the planet. Imagine standing at the bottom of a wall that is 3 times the height of the Burj Khalifa. Now imagine trying to climb it with freezing fingers, while the wind tries to peel you off the rock like a sticker. The mountain known as Ullamertosuaq is the star here. Its west face is a sheer drop that defies gravity. It looks like someone took a giant knife and sliced the mountain in half. But the history here isn't just about adrenaline junkies. For centuries, the Inuit came here for the char, a type of fish that fills the rivers. The water is turquoise, fed by the glacial flour grinding off the ice sheet. It looks tropical like the Caribbean until you dip your hand in and feel the numbing shock of 33-degree water. What many overlooked is the silence. In most mountain ranges, you hear birds, insects, the rustle of trees. Here, it is dead quiet. The only sound is the occasional rockfall, echoing like a gunshot across the valley. It is a paradise for the brave, but nature here is indifferent to your skills. If you slip, help is days away. But just around the corner, the landscape plays a trick on your eyes. The ice gives way to a secret forest. You are walking through a dense forest of Siberian larch and spruce trees. You smell pine needles. You hear the wind in the branches. And then you remember you are in Greenland. This is the Greenlandic Arboretum. It shouldn't exist. Trees do not belong here, but in Narsarsuaq, a microclimate and some determined scientists have created a botanical miracle. There are over 50,000 trees here, comprised of 110 different species from all over the cold regions of the world. It is an experiment to see what will survive as the world warms up, but the trees are hiding a darker past. Narsarsuaq wasn't built for botany, it was built for war. In 1941, the US Army constructed a massive airbase here, codenamed Bluey West 1. It became a critical hospital site. During the invasion of Normandy, wounded soldiers were flown here before being sent back to the States. Thousands of young men bled on this soil, thousands of miles from home. The runway is still here. It is the gateway to the south. And in 2026, a new international airport is set to open, changing this quiet town forever. The contrast is jarring. On one side of the river, you have the concrete skeletons of military barracks and a massive runway. On the other side, directly across the fjord is Brattahlid, the place where Eric the Red settled 1,000 years ago. You are standing between the Viking Age and the Jet Age. But the wildest fact is the ground itself. The land here is rising. Because the heavy ice sheet is melting and retreating, the weight is lifting off the Earth's crust. The land rises between 2 and 4 centimeters every single year. The Earth is literally rebounding. But we are not done with the strange contrasts of the south. The rocks are starting to wear human faces. We are docking in Qaqortoq, the capital of the south. It feels different here. The houses are splashed in vibrant colors, red, yellow, blue, climbing up the steep hills like a chaotic amphitheater. But look closer at the rocks. In 1993, an artist named Aka Her started a project called Stone and Man. She didn't want art to be stuck inside a museum. She wanted the town itself to be the canvas. Today, over 40 massive sculptures are carved directly into the granite boulders scattered around the town. You turn a corner, and a face is staring at you from the cliff. You walk past a wall, and seeing whales carved into the stone, it turns the entire town into a scavenger hunt. But Qaqortoq isn't just about art, it is about wealth.
Not far from here is the Nalunak gold mine. Yes, gold. Greenland is sitting on mineral riches that the world is just starting to hunger for. And right here in town is the only tannery in the country, Great Greenland Fur House. This is where sealskin is turned into fashion. It is a controversial industry to the outside world, but here it is survival. They use every part of the animal. The meat feeds the families, and the skin becomes coats that can survive a blizzard. The history goes back to 1774, when it was founded as Julianhav. It has always been a trading hub, but the most shocking thing about Qaqortoq is the temperature. In summer, it can hit 70 degrees Fahrenheit. People walk around in t-shirts while icebergs float in the harbor. It feels civilized, almost European. But don't get too comfortable. The ground is about to boil beneath your feet. Imagine stripping down to your swimsuit while the air temperature is freezing and an iceberg drifts past you just a few hundred yards away. Welcome to Untouched. This is an uninhabited island, but it holds a geological gift. While there are thousands of hot springs in Greenland, most are too cold or too hard to reach. Untouched is the only one that is just right. The water here bubbles up from the earth at a perfect 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But the thing nobody tells you is the history of this water. The Vikings loved this place. There are legends that Leif Erikson himself might have soaked in these very pools before sailing off to discover North America. They believed the water had healing powers. For 1,000 years, hunters and travelers have stopped here to thaw out their frozen bones. It is a surreal experience. You are sitting in hot, steaming water, surrounded by yellow wildflowers, looking out at jagged mountain peaks covered in snow. It plays tricks on your brain. Your body says tropical vacation, but your eyes say Arctic expedition. The physics are fascinating. The water is heated by friction deep within the Earth's crust, not by volcanic activity like in Iceland. It is a geothermal anomaly. But as you relax in the steam, you are looking across the water at a tragedy. A civilization vanished just across the bay. This is it, the ground zero of a 500-year-old mystery. We are standing in the ruins of Hvalsey Church. It is the best preserved Norse building in Greenland. The stone walls are still standing, thick and imposing, built by Viking hands in the 12th century. But it is what happened here in 1408 that gives you chills. On a Sunday in September 1408, a wedding took place here. Thorstein Olafsson married Sigrid Bjornsdottir. We have the written record of it in the Vatican archives, and that is it. That wedding is the very last written word we ever heard from the Norse Greenlanders. After that day, silence. Thousands of people who had lived here for nearly 500 years just disappeared. Did they starve as the climate cooled? Did they pack up and leave? Did they clash with the Inuit? Walking inside the roofless church, you can feel the weight of that silence. The stone masonry is impeccable. They used rock splinters to fill the gaps between the massive boulders. They built this to last forever, but the people didn't last. Archaeologists have found no signs of a massacre. No mass graves. It is like they just turned off the lights and walked away. The windows of the church look out onto the fjord. It is the same view the wedding guests saw 600 years ago. The grass is just as green. The sheep still graze here, but the ghosts of the Norse are everywhere. It is a reminder that nature always wins in the end. But speaking of sheep, the landscape here is deceiving. We are entering the Arctic's breadbasket. If you woke up here without knowing where you were, you might guess you were in Scotland or New Zealand. Green rolling hills, flocks of white sheep grazing peacefully, tractors baling hay. But this is still Greenland. This is the only place on the island where agriculture is possible. There are about 50 farms in the south, and they are not just surviving, they are growing. The lamb from this region is considered some of the best in the world. Why? Because the sheep roam free in the mountains all summer, eating wild herbs, thyme and berries. They are marinating themselves from the inside out. But here is the controversy. Farming is getting easier. As the climate warms, the growing season is getting longer. Farmers are now growing potatoes, turnips, and even experimenting with strawberries. For the rest of the world, global warming is a threat. Here, it is a business opportunity, but it is not just sheep. There is a massive reindeer station here too. Imagine a cowboy. But instead of a horse, he is on a snowmobile. And instead of cattle, he is herding semi-wild reindeer with massive antlers. Life on these farms is isolated. You are miles from the nearest town. You rely on your generator and your boat. If you run out of sugar, it is a 2-hour boat ride to the store. It is a rugged, lonely, beautiful life. But we have one more stop in the south before we head to the capital. The eagle is watching you from the steeple. We are moving north, up the west coast, to the town of Pamiut. The locals call this place the home of the white-tailed eagle. These massive birds, with wingspans of 8 feet, are everywhere here. They glide over the town like prehistoric gliders, but the crown jewel of Paamiut is the church. Built in 1909, this is arguably the most beautiful wooden church in Greenland. It was designed by a Danish architect in the Norwegian stave style. It is painted a bright, striking red with white trim. Inside, it is a masterpiece of woodwork. The acoustics are perfect, but the history of Paamiut is tied to the fog. This area is known for being notoriously foggy and wet. It made navigation a nightmare for the early sailors. The church steeple acted as a lighthouse of sorts, a landmark that sailors could spot when the fog lifted for a brief moment. There is a wild fact about the population here. Paamiut has struggled. As the codfish disappeared from the waters, people left. The town has a melancholic feel to it, empty houses, quiet streets, but the eagles remain. They nest in the cliffs right above the town. If you have a zoom lens, you can see them feeding their chicks. It is a town holding onto its dignity, anchored by that beautiful red church. But now, we leave the quiet villages behind. We are heading to the big city, where the ancient meets the asphalt. You have been traveling through silence for days. Ice, rock, water. Then you round a corner and see something that makes your brain glitch. Traffic lights, high-rise apartment blocks, a shopping mall. Welcome to Nuuk. This is the northernmost capital city on the planet, but do not call it a sleepy village. This is a boom town. With a population of nearly 20,000 people, Nuuk holds almost a third of the entire country's population. To put it mildly, this place is exploding. Construction cranes swing over the skyline like giant metal birds. A massive new international airport terminal opened in 2024, finally connecting this isolated city directly to the Americas and Europe without a layover. But look at the backdrop. The city is dwarfed by the Semitsiak mountain. Its iconic saddle-shaped peak rises 4,000 feet straight up, looming over the coffee shops and fashion boutiques. The history here is a tug of war. Founded in 1728 by the Danish missionary Hans Egede, it was originally called Godthab. Good Hope. He came here to find the Norse Vikings, only to find they were gone. Instead, he found the Inuit, and the modern colonization began. Today, Nuuk is a melting pot. You will hear Danish, Greenlandic, English, and Filipino spoken on the bus. It is a city of extremes. You can play 18 holes of golf on a course that shifts with the tide, or go skiing on a run that ends right at the airport runway. The energy here is frantic. It feels like a city trying to catch up with the rest of the world in a single generation. But beneath the concrete and the glass, the ancient dead are waiting. They have been frozen in time for 5 centuries. Walk down to the old colonial harbor. In a yellow warehouse building, you will find the Greenland National Museum. This is not just a collection of old spoons and kayaks. This is the home of the Kilakitsok mummies. In 1972, hunters found a grave under a rock overhang far to the north. Inside, perfectly preserved by the dry, freezing air, were the bodies of 6 women and 2 children. They died around the year 1475. When you walk into the dimly lit room, you are looking into the faces of people who lived before Columbus sailed to America. You can see their tattoos, you can see the stitching on their fur clothes, you can even see the eyelashes on the baby. It is haunting, it is beautiful, and it is terrifying. The museum tells the story of the waves of migration, the Sakak people who lived here 4,000 years ago, the Dorset culture who vanished mysteriously, and the Thule culture, the direct ancestors of modern Greenlanders. What many overlooked is the technology. You see tools made from meteoric iron. Before they had contact with the Iron Age of Europe, the Inuit were hammering tools out of meteorites that fell from space. The museum is a testament to human ingenuity. It proves that living here wasn't just about surviving, it was about mastering the impossible. But if the museum is about the past, the next stop is about the future of leisure. Imagine swimming naked while watching a blizzard. In a country where the ocean kills you in minutes, learning to swim is complicated. That is why Nuuk built Malik. From the outside, the building looks like a wave freezing in motion. The roof curves and dips, mimicking the landscape. Inside, it is a tropical oasis. The entire front wall is floor-to-ceiling glass. You are swimming in a heated pool, looking directly out at the freezing fjord. It is a surreal visual trick. You watch heavy snow smashing against the glass, wind howling at 50 miles per hour while you are floating in water that is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. For the locals, this is the community hub. It is where the kids learn to respect the water before they ever step into a boat. There is a hot tub outside on the deck. You run through the freezing air, jump in the hot water, and sit there while your hair freezes into icicles. It is the ultimate Nordic spa experience. The name Malik means wave in Greenlandic, and it fits. But the architecture in Nuuk gets even wilder just down the street. The northern lights have been turned into wood. Walking through the center of Nuuk, you see a building that ripples. This is Katuak. The architect designed the wooden facade to look like the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, rippling across the ground. It also mimics the shape of icebergs drifting in the water. Opened in 1997, this is the living room of the city. It is a cinema, a concert hall, and an art gallery all in one. The thing you have to understand is the isolation. Before Katuak, seeing a blockbuster movie or a live international band was a rare dream. Now, Nuuk is on the circuit. You might walk in and hear a heavy metal band singing in Greenlandic, followed by a classical violin concerto. The sunlight floods in through high windows, casting shadows that move like the sundial. It is proof that culture thrives even at the edge of the habitable world. It is a warm, glowing heart in a cold city. But not all art here is bright and happy. Some paintings carry a heavy curse. This isn't your standard state-run gallery. The Nuuk Art Museum started as a private collection. A businessman named Sven Junger and his wife Helene spent a lifetime hoarding art. In 2005, they gave it all to the city. It is housed in a building that looks like an old Adventist church. Inside, it is packed. Over the top, packed. The walls are covered in paintings that show the Greenland of the past. But it is the carvings that steal the show. Rooms filled with soapstone and bone figures. Tupilaks, the spirit monsters, glare at you from glass cases. Some are grotesque with teeth and bulging eyes. Others are incredibly delicate. You see the evolution of the Inuit view of themselves. From the scary spiritual figures of the shamanic era to the modern political art of today's youth. There is a melancholy here. Many of the paintings show a way of life that is disappearing. Dog sleds being replaced by snowmobiles, kayaks replaced by fiberglass speedboats. It is a visual eulogy for the old Arctic. But to understand the true cost of that old life, you need to smell it. We're going to a place that smells of iron and fat. Open the door and the smell hits you instantly. It is an earthy, pungent scent of cured skin and oil. This is Kitat. It is an economacy, a working museum. Here, women are doing what their ancestors did for thousands of years, preparing seal skins. But this isn't for survival anymore, it is for identity. They are making the national costume. The West Greenlandic women's costume is a dazzling display of color. High boots made of white embroidered skin, shorts made of seal, and a blouse covered in thousands of tiny glass beads. You watch them scraping the fat off the skins. It is brutal physical work. The wild fact is the beadwork. A single collar can weigh several pounds and take months to sew. These costumes are not cheap. A full set can cost as much as a small car, but for a Greenlander, it is the most important possession they own. They wear them for confirmations, weddings, and graduations. Kitat keeps the knowledge alive. If these women stopped sewing, the techniques would vanish in a generation. But the city is suffocating us now. We need to get back to the wild. The backyard of this city is bigger than some countries. You get on a boat in the harbor, and within 10 minutes, the city is gone. You are now in the Nuuk Fjord system. It is the second largest fjord system in the world. It stretches 160 kilometers inland. This is the playground of the capital. On weekends, it seems like every single person in Nuuk is out here. The water is deep and rich. It is teeming with cod and redfish. You sail past waterfalls that drop from the sky. You navigate through channels so narrow you can almost touch the walls, then pop out into bays that are miles wide. What many overlooked is the cabin culture. Hidden in the coves are hundreds of tiny huts. No electricity, no running water, just a stove and a view. This is where the modern Greenlander reconnects with the land. They hunt, they fish, they breathe. Deep in the fjord, there is a specific spot where the salmon run. It is one of the few places in Greenland where you can find Atlantic salmon. But if you keep going deeper, you find a settlement that refuses to die. The salmon have their own village here. Deep inside the Nuuk Fjord system, about 75 kilometers from the capital, sits a village that refuses to make sense. This is Kapisilit. The name literally means the salmon. You see, salmon are rare in Greenland. They usually breed in rivers in Europe or North America and only come here to feed in the ocean. But in Kapisilit, there is a genetic anomaly. This is the only place in Greenland with a spawning population of salmon. They have been isolated here for thousands of years. The village itself is tiny. We are talking about 50 people. There are no stores, just a single Pile Suisok, the state-run supply depot. But the real secret lies behind the village. If you hike for 4 hours over the tundra, fighting off mosquitoes the size of birds, you reach a view that breaks your brain. You are looking down at the Kangasunek ice fjord. While everyone goes to Ilulissat in the north for ice, this place is the hidden gem. The glacier at the end of this fjord is pumping out millions of tons of ice, but because it is so far inland, nobody sees it. The ice is jammed up, white and blue, stretching as far as the eye can see. The silence is total. No boats, no planes. Just the ice cracking. The people of Kapisilit live on the edge of this frozen giant. They survive by hunting and fishing, living a life that hasn't changed much in decades, even while the capital city booms just a boat ride away. But not all isolation is about hardship. Sometimes it is about the best meal of your life. Imagine you are on a boat, you drop a line into the deep water. Within seconds, you pull up a bright red Acadian redfish. An hour later, you are sitting in a warm cabin eating that exact fish, cooked by a professional chef, with a glass of white wine in your hand. Welcome to Kukut Nuan. This used to be a sheep farm. Now it is the most remote high-end restaurant you will ever visit. There are no roads to get here. You have to come by boat. In the summer, the valley behind the restaurant is lush and green. It looks like Switzerland on steroids. The mountains are jagged black granite capped with white snow, framing the green valley perfectly. It is a summer retreat for the people of Nuuk. They come here to escape the concrete. You sleep in cabins that used to house farmhands. It is rustic, but the luxury is the location. To put it mildly, it is surreal. You are eating gourmet food in a place where, if you walked 5 miles in the wrong direction, you would be in uncharted wilderness. But the piece of cuckoo is a lie. The fjord is hiding scars. Just down the coast, an entire town was left to rot. We are approaching Kangek. From a distance, it looks like a normal village. You see colorful houses, a church, a store. But then you notice something. There is no smoke coming from the chimneys. There are no boats in the harbor. There are no dogs barking. Kangek is a ghost town. This place is ground zero for one of the most controversial moments in Greenlandic history. In the 1960s and 70s, the Danish government decided to modernize Greenland. They called it the G60 policy. They wanted to move people from small, inefficient villages into the big towns like Nuuk. Kangek was depopulated. The power was cut. The store was closed. The people were forced to leave their homes and move into concrete apartment blocks in the city. Walking through Kangek today is spooky. You can look into the windows and see coffee cups still sitting on tables, curtains rotting in the sun, toys left on the floor. It is a time capsule from 1974, but Kangek wasn't just any village. This is where Hans Egede, the colonizer, first lived before he founded Nuuk. It was a major hub. It was also the home of Aaron of Kangek, a famous hunter and artist who painted the oral history of the Inuit. He documented the old legends and the battles with the Vikings. Now the roofs are caving in. The storms are slowly chewing the buildings apart. It is a sad, silent monument to a policy that changed the country forever. But there is another ghost town nearby, and this one is industrial. The smell of old oil still hangs in the air. If Kangek is a tragedy, Nordafar is a wreckage. This place, also known as Feringahaven, the Faroese harbour, was once a bustling international port. In the mid-20th century, this was where the fishing fleets from the Faroe Islands, Norway and Portugal came to process their catch. It was almost like a separate country. It had its own laws, its own hospital, its own entertainment. It was a rough, tough place where thousands of sailors worked 18-hour shifts salting cod. Then the cod crashed, the fish disappeared, and so did the money. By 1990, the station was abandoned. Today, it looks like a bomb went off. Massive oil tanks sit rusting by the water. The factory buildings have collapsed into piles of twisted metal and concrete. It is dangerous to walk here. The floorboards are rotten, there are deep pits filled with stagnant water, but it is fascinating. You can find old logbooks in the offices written in Faroese. You can see the machines that used to feed Europe. It is a reminder of how fragile the economy is up here. One change in the ocean temperature, one missing school of fish, and a city turns into a scrapyard. But all of these fjords, all of this water, it all comes from one place. We are heading to the source, the mother of all ice. We have flown inland now. We are at the edge of the monster. This is the Greenland ice sheet, the Indlandsis. To put it mildly, the scale of this thing is impossible to understand. It covers 80% of the country. It is 3 times the size of Texas. In the center, the ice is over 3 kilometers thick. That is 2 miles of solid ice pushing down on the bedrock. If this entire sheet were to melt, global sea levels would rise by 7 meters. That is over 20 feet. Goodbye, Miami. Goodbye, Bangladesh. We are standing at point 660 near the town of Kangerlussuaq. This is one of the few places where you can drive a truck right up to the edge of the ice. The wall of ice rises up like a fortress. It is dirty at the edge, covered in dust and silt. This is called cryoconite. It absorbs the sun and speeds up the melting, but step onto the ice and you are entering a different world. The wind here is constant. It is a katabatic wind, cold, heavy air falling off the top of the ice cap and rushing down to the sea. But the ice is hiding secrets. During the Cold War, the US Army built a base inside the ice called Camp Century. They planned to store nuclear missiles there. They powered it with a portable nuclear reactor. They abandoned it in 1966, thinking the snow would bury it forever. But what many overlooked is that the ice is moving and melting. There is a fear that the toxic waste left behind might eventually be exposed. And it is not just bases. In 1992, a P-38 Lightning fighter plane from World War II was dug out of the ice. It had been buried under 260 feet of snow in just 50 years. They called it Glacier Girl. The ice is a time machine. It traps air bubbles that tell us what the atmosphere was like 100,000 years ago, but right now the ice is crying. You can hear it. Rivers of meltwater, brilliant blue, rush across the surface and plunge into deep holes called moulins. These are vertical shafts that go all the way to the bottom. The water lubricates the base of the glacier, making it slide faster into the ocean. It is beautiful, but it is a terrifying beauty. You are standing on the engine of the global climate, and the engine is overheating. But right next to this frozen wasteland, there is life. A prehistoric beast is waiting by the road. Just a few miles from the main ice sheet is the Russell Glacier. This is the face of the ice. It stands 60 meters high. a wall of fractured white and blue cliffs. In the summer, you can sit on the rocks and watch chunks the size of houses break off and crash into the river below. The sound is like thunder. It shakes the ground you are standing on. But look away from the ice. Look at the tundra. You might see a large, dark shape moving. It looks like a rock until it stands up. This is the muskox. These animals look like they walked straight out of the Ice Age because they did. They walked with mammoths and saber-toothed tigers. The mammoths died, but the muskox survived. They are built like tanks. They have massive curved horns and a coat of fur that hangs down to their knees. Underneath that shaggy outer coat is kiviut, an inner wool that is 8 times warmer than sheep's wool and softer than cashmere. It is one of the most expensive fibers on Earth. But do not try to pet them. Muskox are grumpy. If they feel threatened, they don't run. They form a defensive circle, horns facing out, or they charge, and they are fast. Seeing a herd of muskox grazing in front of a massive blue glacier is one of those National Geographic moments that feels fake, but here, it is just a Tuesday afternoon, but we are not done with the physical challenges. To see the real wilderness, you have to walk. If you really want to hurt yourself, you hike the ACT. The Arctic Circle Trail is one of the most remote, long-distance hikes in the world. It stretches 160 kilometers from the edge of the ice sheet to the coast. There are no towns, no cell service, no roads, just you, your heavy backpack, and the silence. It usually takes 9 to 11 days. You sleep in tiny wooden huts scattered along the trail or in your tent. The landscape changes constantly. You go from dry, desert-like dunes near the ice to lush green valleys to boggy wetlands. And that is the catch, the wetlands. In June and July, the mosquitoes are not just annoying, they are a plague. Hikers wear head nets and thick clothing even when it is hot, because if you expose skin, you will be eaten alive. But in 2019, hikers faced a new threat, fire. The tundra, which is supposed to be frozen, caught fire. The peat moss dried out and burned for weeks. Hikers had to be evacuated. It was a wake-up call that the Arctic is changing fast. But if you survive the bugs and the blisters, you reach the coast, and you find a town that loves rocks almost as much as it loves dogs. We are entering the second city. We have arrived in Sisimiut. This is the second largest town in Greenland, located just north of the Arctic Circle. It is a rugged working-class town, but inside the local trade school, KTI, there is a treasure chest. Greenland is a geologist's dream. Because there is no vegetation cover, the rocks are right there in your face. The KTI mineral collection is a hidden gem. It houses rock samples from all over the country. You see, Greenland is old. Some of the rocks here are 3.8 billion years old, the oldest crust on Earth, but it is what is inside the rocks that matters. Rubies, sapphires, gold, rare Earth elements. For decades, the ice covered these treasures. Now, as the ice retreats, prospectors are swarming. The collection shows raw rubies still embedded in the host rock. They are pink and blood red. It represents the future economy of Greenland. Can they mine these riches without destroying the pristine environment we just walked through? It is the big question. The students here are learning to be the miners and engineers of tomorrow. They are holding the economic future of their country in their hands. But Sisimiut isn't just about rocks, it is about to get loud. We are still in Sisimiut, but we need to talk about an invisible line in the snow. You see, Greenland is divided, not by politics, but by dogs. Sisimiut is the southernmost town where sled dogs are allowed. South of here, in Nuuk and the Green Valleys, you cannot own a Greenlandic sled dog. It is illegal. They want to protect the purity of the breed and prevent diseases from the south spreading north. But here, the dogs rule. Walk to the edge of town. You will see Dog City. Hundreds of dogs chained to their houses waiting for the snow. To the outsider, they look cute, like fluffy huskies. Do not make that mistake. These are working animals. They are genetically closer to wolves than your golden retriever. They are strong, they are wild, and they are the engine of the north. In winter, the Sisimiut hinterland transforms. The locals participate in the Arctic Circle race, a 160-kilometer ski race that is widely considered the toughest on Earth. But for the locals, the snowmobile is the new sled. You see teenagers racing across the frozen lakes at 80 miles per hour. It is a mix of ancient tradition and high-octane adrenaline. But we have to keep moving north. We are leaving the solid ground for an archipelago of islands. We are entering the bay of thousands of islands. If you look at a map, Aasiaat looks like someone smashed a plate and scattered the pieces in the water. It is an archipelago of thousands of tiny islands at the southern entrance of Disco Bay. Most tourists skip this place. They rush straight to the big icebergs in the north. They are making a mistake. Aasiaat is the real Greenland. It is unpretentious. It is flat. There are no giant mountains here to block the view. That means the horizon stretches forever, and that horizon is usually broken by a spout of mist. This is the whale capital. In late summer, the humpback whales come deep into the harbor. You can sometimes hear them breathing while you're sitting in your hotel room. The town itself is an open-air gallery. Similar to Kakortok, local artists have painted murals on the sides of the industrial buildings. It adds a splash of rebellion to the grey Arctic backdrop. The kayaking here is legendary. Because there are so many islands, the water is often calm, protected from the open ocean swells. You can paddle through narrow channels where the silence is absolute, but the locals here have a secret. They know that just north of them, the sea becomes a monster. We are approaching the factory that built the Titanic's killer. This is it. The main event, the reason most people come to Greenland. We are standing on the edge of the Ilulissat ice fjord. To put it mildly, your brain cannot process the scale of this place. You are looking at a jam of icebergs that stretches for 40 miles. These aren't just chunks of ice, they are mountains. Some of them are a kilometer tall from bottom to top, with only 10% showing above the water. This fjord is fed by the Cermek-Kujalek Glacier. It is the most productive glacier in the northern hemisphere. It moves at a speed of 40 meters a day. That is insane speed for a glacier. It dumps 20 billion tons of ice into the sea every year. That is enough water to supply the entire United States for a year. Scientific fact. It is widely believed that the iceberg that sank the Titanic in 1912 was born right here, in this fjord. Walking along the boardwalk to the viewpoint, the roar is constant. It sounds like a war zone. The ice is grinding, cracking, and exploding under its own weight. The color is what surprises you. It is not just white, it is turquoise, sapphire blue, and sometimes dirty black from the rock flour. When a big berg calves, breaks off, it can create a tsunami that washes boats onto the shore miles away. You are looking at the raw power of the planet, but right next to this frozen chaos is a booming city. Turn your back on the ice fjord and you are in Ilulissat. The name literally means icebergs. This is the third largest city in Greenland, and it feels like a gold rush town. Tourists from all over the world, Americans, Chinese, Germans, are walking the streets in expensive Gore-Tex gear. The harbor is jammed with fishing boats and zodiacs, but the sound of the city is the sound of dogs. There are almost as many sled dogs here as people. Roughly 4,000 of them. In the summer, the sun never sets. It circles the sky for 2 months. The midnight sun plays tricks on your body. You forget to sleep. You see kids playing soccer in the street at 3 a.m. because it looks like 2 p.m. The hotels here are world class. You can pay $1,000 a night to sleep in an igloo made of glass right on the edge of the cliff. But strip away the tourism, and this is still a hunting town. Go down to the Brete, the local market. You will see hunters selling what they caught that morning: seal meat, minke whale skin, matak, halibut the size of a table. It is a collision of worlds. You can eat a gourmet reindeer burger and then watch a fisherman gut a seal on the concrete pier 5 minutes later. But across the bay, there is a dark shape looming in the mist, an island that shouldn't be there. Look across Disco Bay. You see a massive island with flat-topped mountains. This is Disco Island. Geologically, it makes no sense. Most of Greenland is made of ancient basement granite, grey and hard. But Disco Island is volcanic. It is made of basalt. It was formed by massive lava flows millions of years ago. That changes everything. The soil here is fertile. It is lush. It is green. It looks like Hawaii got lost and froze. You see waterfalls cascading down red and brown cliffs. You see distinct layers in the rock like a layer cake of history. The island has its own microclimate. It is often foggier and warmer than the mainland. Scientists flock here because of Arctic Station, a research facility that has been monitoring the ecosystem since 1906. They are studying something strange. galloping glaciers. Unlike the steady flow of other glaciers, the ones on Disco can suddenly surge forward at terrifying speeds, pulverized everything in their path. But the jewel of the island is the town on the south coast, where the sand turns black. We are landing on the beach. But the sand isn't white or yellow, it is jet black. Welcome to Kekatasuak. The black sand comes from the erosion of the volcanic basalt. Walking on it feels like walking on another planet. Icebergs wash up on the black shore, creating a stark contrast. Diamond white ice on charcoal black sand. It is a photographer's dream. The town itself is small and charming, but look at the rock formations nearby. You see hexagonal basalt columns exactly like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. Nature doing math. The soccer field here is famous. It is located right next to the ocean. If you kick the ball too hard, it goes into the Atlantic. It is not uncommon for a game to be interrupted because a humpback whale is breaching right behind the goalpost. This is one of the best places in Greenland for land-based whale watching. The water gets deep very fast, so the whales come right up to the shoreline. But there is something even cooler up on the mountain. You can go dog sledding in July. You are sweating. It is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. You are hiking up a steep volcanic mountain. After 3 hours of burning calves, you reach the top of the Lingmark Glacier. And suddenly it is winter again. This is one of the only places in Greenland where you can go dog sledding in the middle of summer. The glacier stays frozen year-round on top of the flat mountain. The view from up here is arguably the best in the country. You are looking down at Disco Bay. You can see the curvature of the earth. You can see hundreds of icebergs drifting south like white ships. It is a silent world. The mushers, sled drivers, keep their dogs up here during the summer. It is a surreal experience to be pulled by a team of panting dogs while the sun is high in the sky and you're wearing a t-shirt. But we have to go back to the mainland. We are heading further north to a place where the ice is deadly close. We are going to the glacier that roars. Most glaciers you see from a distance. Each UI is different. Eki invites you in. Located about 80 kilometers north of Ilulissat, the Eki Glacier is known as the Carving Glacier. Boats can get safely within a mile of the face, and you sit there, and you wait. The face of the glacier is 100 meters high. First, you hear the sound, a crack like a rifle shot, then a boom like a cannon. Then you see a slab of ice the size of an apartment building detach from the wall and slide into the water in slow motion. The splash is massive. The boat rocks. It is hypnotic. You can watch it for hours. This place has history too. The famous French explorer Paul-Émile Victor used this location as a base camp for his expeditions onto the ice sheet in the 1940s. You can still see the remains of his hut. He realized that this was the perfect ramp to get onto the inland ice. But living this close to the ice is hard. Just ask the people of the next village. Just north of the big city lies Untouched. In the old days, the Dutch whalers called this place Rode Bay, Red Bay. Not because of the sunset, but because of the blood of the whales they butchered here in the 18th century. Today the water is clear. The population is around 40 people. It is so small that there are no cars. You walk or you take a boat. The houses are scattered on the rocks, painted in bright colors. There is a restaurant here called H8. It is named after the building number from the old colonial maps. They serve fish caught right off the pier. The vibe here is total tranquility. You are far enough from Ilulissat to escape the noise, but close enough to see the big icebergs on the horizon. In the winter, the bay freezes solid. The locals cross-country ski to Ilulissat to do their grocery shopping. It is a simple life, but simplicity is a luxury up here. But now, we are going to push the limits. We are leaving the tourist north and heading to the real north, where the sun disappears for months. If a child drew a mountain, they would draw Uumanak. The mountain here is a single heart-shaped spike of granite rising 1,170 meters straight out of the ocean. The name Uumanak literally means heart-shaped. The town clings to the rocks at the base of this impossible mountain. To put it mildly, this is one of the most photogenic places on Earth. The morning fog swirls around the peak, making it look like a fantasy novel cover. But there is a funny legend here. According to Danish TV tradition, Santa Claus lives here. There is a small turf hut built near the town that serves as Santa's castle. Millions of letters from children are sent to Greenland every year and they end up here. But the reality is tougher. Mining is big here. The Black Angel mine, across the fjord, used to extract lead and zinc. They moved the ore using a cable car that stretched across the fjord, a terrifying feat of engineering. The marble quarry nearby produces stone so white it looks like ice. The people here are tough. They live far above the Arctic Circle. The winter darkness lasts for months, but when the sun returns, they celebrate. Now we have to go even further, to the edge of civilization, to the place where the map ends. We are leaving the known world behind. We are flying north, way north, to Upernavik. If you look out the window, the land has shattered. This isn't just a town, it is a galaxy of islands. There are over 100 small islands in this archipelago. In the winter, the darkness here feels heavier. But in the summer, this is the place of spring. Because the islands are spread out, the hunting is incredible. You see, Upernavik is traditional. The economy is simple, halibut and seals. The fishermen here go out in small dinghies into the open ocean miles from land in freezing temperatures. They pull up halibut that way as much as a grown man. But the most striking thing is the light. Because we are so far north, the sun doesn't just set, it bounces. It skims the horizon for hours, bathing the icebergs in a deep golden orange light. Photographers call it the golden hour, but here it lasts for 6 hours. But to get any further north, you have to cross a graveyard. The ocean here eats ships for breakfast. This is the psychological barrier, Melville Bay. For centuries, this massive stretch of water was the wall that stopped explorers. It is almost always frozen or choked with pack ice. In the 19th century, the whaling ships called this the breaking place. Hundreds of wooden ships were crushed like matchsticks by the shifting ice here. There are no towns, no cabins, no people. This is the kingdom of the polar bear. Because there are no humans to scare them, the bears here are the masters. They roam the sea ice, hunting seals. If you are sailing through here, you are holding your breath. The fog rolls in and suddenly your radar is useless. You are navigating by the sound of waves hitting ice. It is a place of absolute, terrifying beauty, a place that reminds you that we are guests on this planet. But if you survive the crossing, you reach the final frontier. Welcome to the top of the world. We have arrived. Qaanaaq. This is the northernmost town in Greenland. It is one of the northernmost civilian settlements on Earth. We are 700 miles north of the Arctic Circle. The people here, the Inuguit, are distinct. They were the last to be contacted by the outside world. They have their own dialect, their own customs. Here, the kayak is still a hunting tool, not a toy. And they hunt the unicorn of the sea, the narwhal. In the summer, the men go out in kayaks armed with harpoons. They wait for the narwhals to surface. It is a battle of silence and patience. They only take what they need. The vitamin C in the narwhal skin, muktuk, is what kept them alive for centuries without fresh fruit. Life here is dictated by the extremes. In winter, the sun does not rise for 3.5 months. It is the polar night. The town lives under the stars and the northern lights. In summer, the sun spins in circles overhead, driving you crazy with energy. But just down the coast, there is a scar on the landscape. A secret base hides a radioactive past. In 1953, the Cold War arrived in the Arctic. The US government needed a base to watch for Soviet missiles coming over the North Pole. They found the perfect spot near the old village of Thule. So, they moved the people. The local Inuguit families were given a few days to pack up and leave their ancestral land. They were forced to move north to Qaanaaq. It is a wound that hasn't fully healed. The base, Pituffik Space Base, is massive. It has a runway long enough for the space shuttle. It has a radar system that looks like something from Star Wars, but the darkest secret happened in 1968. A B-52 bomber carrying 4 hydrogen bombs caught fire and crashed on the ice nearby. The conventional explosives detonated, spreading radioactive plutonium across the ice. They called it the Broken Arrow incident. The cleanup was messy. Locals and Danish workers helped scrape the radioactive snow into tanks. Many of them got sick later. Today, the base is still active, watching the sky, but the ghosts of the crash and the displaced families still haunt the wind. But we are going further. We are going to the literal end. We are looking for the last rock on Earth. This is the quest for the North. For decades, explorers argued about which piece of land was the absolute northernmost point of land on Earth. For a long time, it was Kaffeklubben Island, Coffee Club Island, a tiny bleak rock named by Danish explorers who really liked their coffee breaks. But then, in 1978, they found Untouched, a gravel bank just north of it. But here is the wild fact: it keeps changing. These islands are often just piles of gravel pushed up by the sea ice. They appear, they get named, and then the ice crushes them or washes them away. We are currently discovering new islands that might be even further north. They are calling them the stray dogs. Standing here at 83 degrees north, you are closer to the North Pole than you are to the nearest tree. There is nothing north of you but a frozen ocean and the axis of the planet. It is a place where geography breaks down. East and west don't matter anymore. There is only south. But looking back at the massive white island we just traversed, there is one final truth we have to face. The giant is waking up. We have traveled 12,000 words across this island. We have seen the Vikings' failed farms. We have seen the American war machines. We have seen the Inuit survival mastery. But the biggest story is the one happening right under our feet. Greenland is melting. It is not a theory. You can hear it. The water is rushing off the ice cap faster than ever before. The Greenland that Eric the Red named as a marketing trick to attract settlers is actually becoming green. New minerals are being exposed. New shipping routes are opening up as the ice retreats. The world powers, China, the US, Europe, are all looking at this island with hungry eyes. They see resources, they see strategy. But the people who live here, they see their home changing. The ice they travel on is getting thinner. The animals they hunt are moving north. Greenland is no longer a frozen, sleeping beauty. It is the center of the world's future. The ice held the world steady for thousands of years. Now the grip is slipping. The question is not if the ice will disappear. The question is, who will be here to see what is underneath? The ice is melting, revealing secrets we were never meant to see. If Greenland turns green again, is humanity the virus or the cure? Hit like and subscribe to watch the world change.